I've heard tell that despite how limiting the United States is, because let's not pretend most of their accessibility things are anywhere near good enough. Like the post office here has about a 2 mile ramp to make your way inside one. It's like 4 steps. And mind you, this place gets a lot of snow and ice. But I've heard from my European disabled influencers, blogger, we need a better word for this, activist that I follow. Europe is so much worse. And I've heard that from a lot of people, actually, because given the history, there's all you have to consider this and that when building. And for the most part, for whatever reason, for all the progress they like to tout, they don't have much mobility help for people, like ramps. Or if you go to a concert or a bar and it's a big event and it's really advertised, you're probably not going to see any information about is there disabled seating? Are there wheelchair ramps? I feel like the events I've followed, mostly California based and a little bit Chicago, I have seen that, but I'm not going to say like, oh, Iowa, I'd see that, because I don't think I would. Although I do got to give the Cedar Rapids Pride Parade and the Sioux Falls, South Dakota Pride Parade, they both did list prominently their accessibility for people with disabilities. So I have to give them props for that one. But I want to encourage everyone, I don't care where you live. I'm sure you've seen somewhere that could use some pepping up, because, of course, I almost choked on my own rage there. In the United States, it's illegal, especially if it's like a public or a federal building, to not have accessibility. But I'm unaware of any laws that say you have to list that. And then in the UK and stuff, I'm hearing they'll list shit, and then half the time it's not accurate. So I just want to encourage everybody anywhere in the world to contact places you go that does not have that listed, or you see a new event and they don't have something listed, and say, hey, could you add this? This would be nice. And I mean, like, for instance, there's a big thing for deaf people with movie theaters. Some movie theaters will turn on subtitles. Some movie theaters have special viewings for deaf audiences. And then some, they'll say, yeah, we'll do it. Then they don't do anything. I feel that's heavily underrepresented because I've never even heard of that service. Of course, I'm not deaf, but there's plenty of deaf people. And I mean, okay, I get blind. That's less a thing you could do, with movies. You can hear the story. But you don't ever see too much things listed for events about, like, if you're blind or deaf. And when they say accessibility, they're usually pretty vague what kind of accessibility they mean. And I gotta tell you, in the United States at least, I always felt that, like, even though nobody out and out went and made me feel that way, I always felt like when I was sick, but not federally disabled, here you do not get a card to say disabled, that, it looks like you're just faking it. And I'd again encourage everyone who does attend events, and even if you're invisibly ill like me, take up that space, dear. You deserve it. I remember being so desperate at the Utada Hikaru concert, 2009, was it? I felt like I was standing on just a bed of needles, and I was so desperate. I'm like, maybe if I go ask where the accessibility area is, maybe I could sit down. But it's like, well, I don't really have any proof I have arthritis. I get really conflicted on the proof thing myself, because yeah, it'd be great, especially if it was something like a state ID. But then we got politicians who I definitely would not trust to have a nice list of the disabled people. So I know in Europe, and I really wish the United States would do this, some of the countries do give certain little bus passes or cards to disabled users to prove, like, hey, I'm actually disabled, whether you think I am or not. So I just want to encourage everyone, like, that's one little thing you can do. I'm sure everybody sees movie screenings, concerts, they go to a coffee shop, they go to the bank, any country. And if you're seeing a lack of help or even info listed, speak up. You got to help your fellow disableds here because nobody else will.